Good evening. My name is Louis C. Gross II. I'm the educational consultant for Manhood Shelter Incorporated, and one of my mentors is here, the principal of Olive Harvey Middle College, Mr. Devon Morales. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. No problem.
Now, young people, first of all, I want to say to you, it is great to have a man like this working with our children. And you have opportunity to call in and find out what's going on. Also, we do recruit, and we're out of the recruiting stage. Coming from the summer into the fall, you need to get your work done to get your child in school. And you can't go to a better place than Olive Harvey Middle College. Now, I must say this. We are in trying times. I keep thinking about Nostradamus. He said 2012. It's 2016. Look what's happening. Total confusion all over the board. But most importantly, what about our children? And Mr. Morales is going to answer a lot of questions today about pertaining to that and give you insight on what's going on. Now, did you know? Let me show you something. It's overhead. What is that? Here. This is how you can reach us. Manhood Shelter. Oh, number 2. Oh, wow. I'm learning, folks. Anyway, Manhood Shelter at yahoo.com. Did you know that Chicago Public Schools is the second largest district in the nation? District 299. That's our district. Also, Chicago Public Schools is the second largest employer. You can always tell when school's out because the traffic is light. But now, let's ask Mr. Morales, the principal of Olive Harvey Middle School, who's also, as we said, has expertise in this, what's going on. Number one question, sir. Number one, can you just give us your credentials?
Sure. Like you said, Devon Morales. I'm the principal of Olive Harvey Middle College, located inside of Olive Harvey College. We focus on giving students a second chance and a better chance at completing their education. I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools, graduated from Carl Schurz High School. After high school, went into the military, did 4 years in the United States Navy, got out, went to Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, had a great time, graduated from there, got my master's degree, always been a passion to teach. I've seen the world when I was in the military, and I wanted to become a history teacher. Started out my teaching career teaching at South Shore High School on the south side of Chicago, 76 and Jeffrey, for the first 10 years of my career, and I pursued administration. My first administrative job was assistant principal at John Marshall High School.
On the west side?
On the west side. I'm a west side, it's on the west side. And I just have so many principals and assistant principals and mentors who helped pave the way. Don Pittman, Sean Clayton, all those guys were very influential in who I am today and the things that I'm doing. So that's a nutshell about myself, and we just really want to provide the best education for our students and for our people.
Question: has the educational process changed from the time you began as opposed to now?
Yes, from the time I started teaching in 1998. So, in that time to where we are now, there is a shift. More schools have to provide counseling and mental health.
Social-emotional.
Yes, because the student that we're dealing with today is coming from a very diverse background. There have been some trauma in the life, either with dealing with personal losses of brothers, cousins, family members through death, and sometimes it's hard for them to process when they're in school. And some of the young children are being immune to it because it's happening so rapidly.
I know, it's trauma.
Yeah. So, education has changed from the early 2000s, late 90s to now. And I think schools really should focus on providing some type of mentoring, social-emotional services for their students. And we are one of the schools, and it's very tough with the budget crunches of today, with looking at staff and adequate materials and supplemental materials for your students to be prepared even just for exams and standardized tests, to provide those mental health services and those social-emotional services. Just overall wellness is a challenge for any school administrator.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that today's parents in Chicago, are they really about their children? I know, number one, I did statistical research. It says that 53% of this population in Chicago is illiterate. So if that's the case, that might transmit into their students. What do you think about that?
Well, I think before you start, researching, you have to look at sources.
Okay.
There's a lot of sources out here that'll tell you Chicago public schools overall is improving. Chicago public schools are declining. Students are changing in demographics. So you have to be careful about the sources. But what I can tell you from my experience and what I've seen, there are some great parents out there. There are some parents who believe in education. There are some parents who believe in their students, and there are some parents who push their students daily. And then you have those students who are growing up themselves, raising themselves, and they don't have that.
You call them latchkey babies or something like that?
Latchkey kids, and they're growing up, and the focus is not on education. And we have to remember that this is a digital age that we're living in, and most of our young people are investing money into $1,000 cell phones, laptops, tablets. So that inspiration to pick up a book and read has transformed. Exactly. And some people will argue that, well, you can get books digitally on your devices, your Kindles, what have you. However, there are also those temptations to get on the social media, various websites during that time.
Well, so too. I'm just saying.
And so, like I said, with my experience, I would say, it's 50-50. Some parents really should spend that time, that quality time with their students, to just ask, how was the day going? What did you learn today?
Communication.
Can you show me homework, instead of telling me, yeah, I didn't have homework. So, doing a little bit, parents should be doing more investigative services.
We have a caller. Your question or concern? You on the air?
Yes, I wanted to call in and touch base on a subject that you've raised. At the risk of sounding a bit cliche, the old adage about it takes a village to raise a child, I think really is applicable here. Because I think we have a lot of parents who will complain to their dying day about the fact that their child isn't receiving the kind of education that they believe that they should. Well, at the same time, they haven't made it to a parent-teacher conference in years. They haven't been involved in their child's education. They don't ask whether or not you have homework. They don't ask how you're progressing. Any of these things. We have all too many parents who think that the job of education, it falls to the people who are there behind the door when I drop my child off in the morning or lead them to the bus stop. And that's where education starts and it ends when they come home, as if you have no responsibility as a parent with regard to that child's education. And when you go to places in and around Chicago that have the best performing schools, you find out that what you also have is parents who are very much involved. They are there at parent-teacher conferences. They run for school boards. They are there to make sure the curriculum is at the highest standards. Everything. They're there to do funding when there's a shortfall and there's not the kind of resources that they need. They're there to have all of those things happen. And in schools that, quite frankly, aren't putting out the kind of educated young people that we hope, we find a lack of that sort of thing. So you're absolutely right. I'm not saying that it's up to parents entirely. They have enough burdens. But let's face it, there are some parents who would rather be on the phone, be out having a good time with their friends, than involved in their child's education. And if you think that somebody else is going to educate your child without your input and you're going to have a great outcome, that they're just going to wake up one day and be ready for college, you are living in a misguided world. Because I'll tell you, I hold a doctoral degree, but at the age of 13, if I hadn't had a parent to tell me it's time for you to do your homework, I would have been out playing basketball or
Yes.
playing or doing other things.
And I just want to thank you for those comments. I just want to add something to your comments. You said in the beginning that it takes a village. And whenever I hear that, my response always is, let's be that village. So if it's going to take a village, let's be the village. And I always tell the parents and at every school I've worked, education is a three-way partnership. Right. It's the school, the student, and the parent. And if any one of those pieces are missing, we're not going to be successful.
Absolutely, and that's another point I also wanted to raise. It is absolutely the case that we do have a disparity in funding and resources in this country. Unfortunately, we long ago established a system whereby the quality of education you get is a function of the house that you can afford. If you live in a poor neighborhood, your houses value that less, therefore you're taxed that less, your tax base is less, your schools aren't going to be as good. I mean, it's not a surprise that along the North Shore, where the average home sells for over $1 million, surprise, surprise, we spend more than $20,000 per child at educating those children. Why?
Yes.
Because it's easy to tax people on $1 million home. It's a lot tougher to tax people on a $60,000 home.
True.
And we need to get across to people who can afford a good education for their kids the idea that it's not just your child. All children are your children. Because
Yes.
if you don't pay now,
Right.
well, you're going to pay in the long run, because when someone is uneducated, they're going to end up in the criminal justice system.
We'll
They're
have
going
to
to
pay
end up
for
on
that.
the unemployment line, and you're going to pay through your tax dollars for other sorts of costs. So let's think about everybody's children.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your call. We got another caller. Call me on the air. Question or comment?
Good evening. I want to say, first of all, I understand what Steve was saying earlier, but when you have education based on tax structure, and if you're living in $1 million home in that area, able to pay $20,000 or $30,000, fine. When you paying for steak, you don't want neck bones. And the famous words of Benjamin Franklin, to use property taxes a lot of times in terms of funding education is not the right way to go, because we're going to have these type of disparities.
I agree with
You
you.
really cannot fault the way the educational way the funding is. That's the way it is. And when you look at the current system right now, this is the facts. Why does it cost more money, I'm talking about especially in primary education, why does it cost more money to send a child to a public school than a private school? And it doesn't make any sense at all. And then when I look at my tax money a lot of times, and in Chicago public schools talking about they need more money, why do they need more money when their enrollment is going down? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's
Thank you for coming.
On that?
basing education on taxes. I do agree with you, and one thing that I've analyzed with the tax system, it's always people in the lower tax bracket paying the most for services. I mean, you know, if we were able to tax the upper 1% by their tax bracket, or by even the numbers that we pay for, which is 30% of our salary goes into taxes, the country would probably be much better off. But you know, we're gonna leave it to those politicians in Washington to come up with a formula that should be non-biased against classification of people.
Good answer. Got a caller. Question or comment, caller? Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, I just wanted to add that we are the only Western industrialized nation that doesn't have a national policy by which we fund our school systems. Instead, again, it's this notion of the state of Illinois and local property taxes, as opposed to places like France. France does not say, we're going to allocate, you know, this little region of money depending upon how much money they make. This is how much education they get. No, there's a national educational fund so that the kids in poor neighborhoods get as much as the kids in wealthier neighborhoods in places like West.
And that seems to be a trend all over Europe. And I can remember the Dutch does the same thing. If you want to go to college, it's there for you to go to without paying for anything. You know, you're going to pay higher taxes for services and items, goods and services, but it's well worth it. And I think that we have a lot to learn from the Europeans in some aspects of being fiscally responsible.
Thank you for your comment, and thank you for the response. We have another caller. Caller, you're on the air. Question or comment?
Why not give a parent a choice where their child can go to, like they do in England? If they got the attitude, they can wind up going to a private school. Now, you look at the school where Barack Obama's daughter was going to, it would cost $50,000 a year. But guess what? They had 2 children because of scholarships. Children, they were able to go to that same school the president's children go to. Why not have a different type of funding altogether and let the money a lot of times follow the child? And when you look at the current school system right now, it's not about a lot of times about quality. A lot of times we look at the children right now. They're just like chickens, and they cut them up, and people making money off them. And we got somebody like a Colonel Sanders, and they use them like chickens, and somebody making money off the misery. And we got these charter schools. Look at the bottom line, all right? We look at the evidence based on the facts and all that. They're not really producing, but somebody's getting paid off someone's misery.
Thank you for your comment, caller. Any response to that?
Well, I can feel your anguish and your pain.
Right.
However, there are systems set up to monitor those charter schools, and I encourage you to get involved in finding out and looking at the school's report card and write to the State Board of Education to figure out what are the metrics in which that school is being judged on. Because I know as a principal, we're faced with performing, we're faced with adequately educating our children, and some of those metrics that they use, I encourage parents to come in and find out and take a look at them and see what actually goes into giving the school a grade. And there's some things that the community can do.
Right. Well, you know what? The community should be in partnership with the school on all levels. We have another caller. A question or comment, caller. You're there.
Good evening, guys. That was a good analogy. I mean, Turkey's system is just like chicken, Colonel Sanders and all that. That was really kind of funny. Listen, I think all of this is BS. I think what we really need to do is shut down the system as we know of right now, because it's not working. Get the politicians out of the public schools. Get the, like you say, get the community. Get the people who really always want to talk. Put some money behind that talk. Let's do our children. Let's do our communities. See, people always want to talk, but no one wants to ever help. We could help financially. Listen, we play lotteries. We give people money to do other things. People that don't have money, they run to the liquor store. Well, instead of buying one six-pack, buy a case, hold on to that case, take the rest of your money and donate it to your community schools. But one thing for sure, it's not working. So it's time to try something new. Shut it down. Cut it loose, and let's come with another game plan. It's just like sports, man. When it ain't working, you start drafting and you start trying to get it better, because if not, it's always going to stay the same. And my guy, you got one of the most important thoughts that a person could ever think. If you're running out of your rope, and you're at the very end,
tie a knot.
Tie a knot. Well, listen, don't tie a knot. Just cut that rope and let that school sink. And let's go. Thanks for taking the call. Let me get out so I can hear your response.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any response to that?
I think those are some excellent comments. And I encourage parents to get more involved, because parents have a voice. Parents can get things done in school, in the school board offices and district offices. I encourage all parents to get involved, because you have a seat at the table.
Thank you. Caller, question or comment? You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say very quickly, I mean, with all due respect to the previous caller who suggested, well, we just need to shut down the whole system. No, I think that's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, the notion that it's not working. Yes, it's not working if we use the sports analogy. If you're the Chicago Bulls, you could argue the NBA isn't working given their record last year. But if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, the NBA is working just fine. So, it depends.
Overall, yes.
Schools.
Yes.
We have some great schools in the city of Chicago. My
that's true.
Lane Tech. There's nothing wrong with keeping Lane Tech open and other schools like that open. The question is not to close down those schools, but how do we elevate other schools? And the last point here being, and this is an important one, comparing private schools to public is a little bit dishonest. Private schools are not obligated to take learning disabled and troubled children.
Absolutely
true.
That's what public education has to deal with.
And mandated, right.
It does not have to take someone who has a criminal background, who's learning disabled. they can refuse them at the door. So, it's a little bit unfair to compare the two.
Yes, and to say that, to shut it down, I definitely understand where you're coming from. One of the things that, if I was CEO of Chicago Public Schools or any other school district, I think that we should look at the resources that every school is adequately equipped to educate a child to the best of their abilities every day. And sometimes, there's a teacher in every school that can motivate students, that can get them in there. So sometimes it just takes us to look at, and I'm saying us as principals, it takes us to look at our staff and to make sure that we have the right people in place to make sure that
that's an important point. And the thing of it is that we have to recognize there's blame to go around.
Yes.
And I don't want to vilify teachers. I think a lot of them do a good job. But all of us who went to public schools remember that there were a handful of teachers who were unmotivated. They taught the same thing. You could have taken the test that your sister took 3 years beforehand, and it was the same exact one because that teacher sat there and did nothing but collected a paycheck because they didn't teach. They just said, go in and read the chapter. That's today's work, while they sat up there and did whatever they did, reading a newspaper while you sat there in the classroom. So there's room to get rid of some of our teachers, but we need to address that with the Chicago Teachers Union, who unfortunately is still defending the notion that all teachers are good teachers. I'm sorry, I support teachers, but there are bad teachers amongst us.
Like in every field of life. I want to thank you for your comment. We got one more caller, and we've been pressed for time. Caller, question or comment, go ahead.
No, just a quick comment. Since we talk about sports, nobody want no Bulls or White Sox. Let's get Theo from the Cubs. He could show the Chicago Public School what to do, because that's the only genius in Chicago that know anything about sports. So I'm quite sure he could probably do something with school. Thanks again.
Thank you. I want to do one thing. Molly, my little granddaughter, I love you. That's the alpha. Sir, is there anything you want to talk about in the brief time we have in terms of recruitment?
Sure.
And
so right now, we're starting our recruitment phase. Olive Harvey Middle College is a part of YCCS, Youth Connection Charter School System, and we have an array of 19 different campuses with different focuses, with the educational equipment to definitely provide a second and a better chance to students who had a pause in their educational career. So I'm speaking out there to all of those parents, those uncles, those sisters, those brothers, those grandparents who have children who have not completed their high school education. Get them in school. I'm here to speak on behalf of Olive Harvey, but get them in school, any school that you can that will allow them to flourish, because sometimes they just have not met the right teacher or the right student or the right peer to tap into that excellence that they're ready to pour out. And so at Olive Harvey Middle College, we offer students a chance to get a high school diploma as well as an associate's degree by taking classes in college and high school at the same time with our dual enrollment program.
Can you give that number?
Sure.
Address?
Our address is 10001 South Woodlawn Avenue, Chicago, Illinois 60623. We're located in Olive Harvey College on the lower level. You can give us a call at 773-291-6521. You can speak to any staff member there. They'll point you in the right direction on how to get enrolled. And if students are ready to enroll, we would like for them to go to www.yccs.org. And you sign up via the web. You'll select the campus that you want to go to, and that campus will call you immediately. But with the focus on dual enrollment, college credits, that's the Olive Harvey way, and I appreciate you and your organization for inviting me out. Definitely enjoyed myself, and we look forward to hearing from you out there in TV land. Your callers, all your calls and comments were excellent, and I'm definitely anticipating a chance to come back.
We are concerned, and you proved it by calling in and voicing your concerns. By the way, remember, if you feel as though you run out of rope, tie a knot and hang on. Everything's going to be okay. Have a blessed day. Oh, yeah. Bye, Mom.